What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to my podcast, Honesty with Comedy, where life gets real. We have some laughs along the way, but we always going to be authentic to who we are. I appreciate everybody for reviewing my video, sharing it, liking it, commenting, and so forth. Today, as I had iterated in my prior mental health episode, like what's in my head, I had indicated that I was going to work on part two, which talks about, mental health illnesses in kids. We really need to pay attention to this because that's our future. That's our upcoming generation. They might end up saving our lives. Who knows, next president. So we definitely want to be sensitive and informative. I'm not a professional. I'm putting that as a disclosure. Thanks, though. Anyway, so today we're going to go ahead and break down, you know, how and what to kind of pay attention to and look for in our kids and how they are affected, you know, by mental illness. It doesn't have an age limitation, a gender, a race. It is literally a disease. Okay. So now I know I can't, my children, my son was the only one who really had, you know, any type of indications of a mental illness, at least from what I know. They try to put him on that Ritalin. Yeah, but talk about he got ADHD. Excuse me? How dare you talk about my child? But then, after a while, I kind of figured like, it might be possible. But they did like recommend him being on that Ritalin. Yeah, me how they normally do. No, no. He was young. He was still in elementary school. Like, what did I look like doping up my child? Like, what if it's just something temporarily? Hmm? You want him on them stiff? No, thank you. But I had decided I'm not going to medicate my son. Hopefully, he'll just grow out of it. I mean, it took a little minute. I think the only time he really grew out of it is when he grew out of school. That's it. But that boy got in repeated trouble. It seemed like every week I was gonna call about my son. Like, well, you're not meant to get away with stuff. I don't know. Maybe that trouble is actually a disease in his own. Yeah. But regardless, he eventually grew up and then it started to, slow down and he started to put more thought into his actions and behaviors, that was getting him in trouble. But I can't say that that is the case with all children because mental health, like I said, affects everybody. Hell, even animals, they get depressed too. But so today, I wanted to talk about, does our household, does our lives as adults affect children? Can result in real mental health issues. I think we need to take that in high consideration and know your children, right? So even if you like had household dysfunction, to say the least, I don't think sometimes that us as parents recognize and feel like we need to discuss or ask our children, how they are being affected. Like if y'all was together, married or whatever for so long, and then your children notice that you guys are always arguing, fighting, whatever the case may be, and then ultimately end up separating. I don't think a lot of, I think we fail, and neglect how that has an impact on our children's, mental state and well being. It's not just all about us as adults, But the thing is, us as adults, we we can speak, we can process and rationalize, and have some self awareness and put a name. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling frustrated, and so forth. Children, you rarely get them to really express that they're feeling down, you know, anxious, upset, or whatever. We have to recognize that in your child's behaviors. That it screams high. If you're going to determine, if you're going to discover or know how your child is kind of, adjusting to life or whatever, look at their behavior. You know your child better than anybody. If they really wasn't showing signs of behavioral issues prior to any household changes, life, business, moved or whatever the case, then before that happened and it was normal. And then all of a sudden, boom, something changed. Now they're getting calls from school, other people are complaining, saying your child is, behaving erratically. That is concerning. We can't dismiss or disregard the effects of just navigating life, you know what I'm saying, for our children. We can't think that they can process information like we do. No. And I think it's very important to highlight recognizing when things seems to, you know, shift with our children. Have a conversation, ask them. So me and my children and their father, we were together their whole life, right? Then we had getting married. We had our combative days, of course. Okay, we're in a relationship. Drama. However, if certain arguments, literally certain arguments, and your children is absorbing all of that, we think that, oh yeah, we're being secretive, discreet about these conversations. No, no, they know it's some drama going down. And then hearing name calling, disrespecting each other, especially in front of our kids, you don't think that's going to have a real effect on their mind? Yeah, we can't ignore that. So I always say pay attention. So in the relationship, yeah, we had, like I said, off and on, blah, blah, blah. But then ultimately, once we officially separated and got divorced, I asked, my children, what do you feel about this? One of them in particular, my youngest, she expressed that she felt sad. She felt sad because my other two, the oldest and my son that's in the middle, she felt like they had an opportunity to grow up with both parents present, right? And then she, on the other hand, we ultimately ended up separating. So she didn't get the same amount of family ship, if that's a word. Well, it's going to be a new one, as her siblings. You can always sense sometimes too. Like I'm really hands on with my kids. I pay attention to them. I mean, hell, they can come in from school and I'm scanning them, okay, like a QR code. I know what colors gyp shoe strings you got on, your belt crooked, your shirt missing a button. But behavioral wise, the mind, it has secrets, honey. It's like a window with the blinds always closed. It's dark in there. There's no light that's going to come through there until you open it. So that's kind of like a metaphor that I have, come up with as far as getting in your children's business. And that is why this episode is I'm minding your business. I'm talking about, our kids, of course. I'm all up in your business. The hell, that phone too, if it ain't got no security code on it. What's that? No. But still, catching it early on could help. And then also kids, I feel like they appreciate that you have some awareness to them and their feelings, changes, and then the fact that you even bring it up to them. That's important because we as adults, we would appreciate if somebody called us and say, "Hey, I know something changed. You're going through something. How are you?" That makes you feel like you have people who actually see you. It's the same with children. They need more support, honestly, than we do. They don't know how to express themselves. So, one thing that I have utilized, as my kids progress, I utilize how old are they, right? And what age, it all depends on what I would talk to them about. It was age based. If you're a little older, then my conversations with you are going to be more direct. You know what I'm saying? Not so broad or narrow. It'll be very specific because one child that's in elementary school, you know what I'm saying, versus someone that's in high school, they don't have the same processing abilities. They can't comprehend the same information the same. But we can't minimize just because a child is in elementary school that they really don't understand or have a more, I would say, effect as a result of whatever they are going through. So, like I said, I will have conversations with my children based on their age, right? And also, I found it very helpful to, how like we go through things growing up and stuff, right? So I think about what affected me with my parents. What is it that I grew in resentment for? You know, what do I feel like I lack that I didn't get from my own parents? So I would take that and then apply that to my children because I didn't want them having resentment. I didn't want them having a parent that doesn't acknowledge their feelings and validate it. And that's one thing with my children, I always validate their feelings. Could I do more as a mother? What can I do? What would you want? You know what I'm saying? From me as your mother to change, do, and so forth. So I feel like that may help taking into account the things that you lack from your childhood and then making that adjustment and making that not grow into this huge issue where they are now saying the same thing about you. And that's what they call generational curse, chap. That hand me down, like them Saint Vincent de Paul, we can hand down dysfunction, mental issues. And we already know children that don't know how to really express themselves verbally, that is literally like a TNT bomb ready to blow. And nobody wants that. I feel like also it can help reduce them seeking leadership, companionship, support from someone who has a bad influence on them, around them. I think a lot of, and I'm just saying my opinion, right? A lot of kids ultimately end up in gangs. Let's be real. Why? Why would you? And I've heard a lot of young kids talk about being jumped in to a organization like that. You get beat up by multiple people so you can prove that you are worthy to be a part of them. Or you got to do something stupid to show your loyalty or show that, hey, I would do anything to be under you. Or what? Uh-uh. You ain't my master. Not happening. But for the most part, the neighborhoods, the communities, the schools, friends, that all has an influence on our kids. But we as parents need to be the biggest influence over them. First and foremost, do not allow or your children to feel like they need to seek other people to feel supported, loved, protected, comforted. Don't nobody want those type of phone calls. I think kids don't realize you really think someone else outside of your loved ones is really going to care more. Now, if you're neglected emotionally, physically, however they may, from your, loved ones and whatnot, understandably so. And I think a lot of parents also disregard kids actually want discipline. I come to find that out. I've asked my children. They said, no, we appreciate the discipline. It probably varies though, depending on, how I discipline. If I had to snatch you up, hmm, or just sit there and talk to you, what's up? But they do. They wanted that type of structure and discipline. So they would be all willy nilly and whatnot. I, also, I know when, like my son, like I said, oh, child, boys, and he was the only boy I had, child. That boy got in trouble so much, especially like at a particular school. He knows so many people there. He's like the cool, popular child, you know? You really? First of all, if you in a position of leadership, then lead. Show people how and what to do that's appropriate. Not something that's gonna have both of y'all handcuffed to somebody penitentiary. But I used to say, if you continue to get in trouble and do things here, I'm gonna snatch you out of here so fast. You're gonna think that you never, ever have ever been enrolled in school. But of course, he did. But I went through. I wasn't just threatening you. I told you. So we got in trouble again. Guess what? You're done. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna walk the walk this time. So I took him from that school and then transferred his butt to another school where he didn't know nobody. He didn't know nobody. So maybe now you can focus on what you need to do. It paid off. He eventually graduated. But still, we do have to take into account how and what our children do. Have conversations with your children, always checking on them, go through their phones. Children also, they're really secretive. Honestly, they are, if they can get away with some stuff, oh, they will. They will try. But it is up to us to recognize that, you know? So I just kind of wanted to say all that. But I got some breakdowns on a few like triggers and um what to kind of and like red flags and stuff to look for. Because those triggers and red flags, they're also based on your child's age. You know their personality as well. How could you have a discussion with them based on their age and personality? Every child don't listen the same. Every child don't accept discipline the same. So I think that's something we also need to keep in mind. You know your child better than anybody. So whatever is the most effective way to talk to them, do that. Okay? Now, we talked about household um, you know, issues, dysfunction, concerns, and how that affects our children. Because it does. It really does. So, environmental. Where do you live? Who is around your children? Who are they friends? A lot of my children, and I think I mentioned that in the past video, I've heard these kids, I mean, cussing up a storm, disrespectful. If I went to a activity, a game, one of their sports events, and I hear other kids either next to me or behind me cussing like that, I'm gonna check them. You can get up away from me with that. It's just something about that. Just it boils my blood. It does. Because they shouldn't. So it's like, what is happening in your head? What is happening in your life where you feel like you grown, that you can just say anything and think it's okay? It's not cute. Now, can that be a reflection on parenting? Yeah. hmm We can't control everything that our kids feel, think, do every day when they're out of our sight. But are you having these conversations? Are you hitting that, the heart? Are you dissecting the mind? Because you still should go out, even if you're away from me, be presentable and appropriate. Like my children, they're not going to be cussing in the presence of an adult. You're not cussing around me, some your grandmother, adults. So you need to have that same respect in front of other people's parents. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Behaviors. You can't, I don't know, chat. But yeah, we need to pay attention to that stuff, right? Okay. Um, we also know bullying. How many parents have had a child that has been bullied? A lot. It's so heartbreaking. It really is so heartbreaking to hear about somebody's child felt so unworthy unprotected with so much fear in them because of somebody else's child. Where and what created in you the ability or the desire to bully? That works on both ends. It's just not one. The bully, you got that from somewhere. You are angry. Because, in my opinion, if you're bullying someone, it's because you have insecurities. You're missing something that doesn't allow you to transfer that over to another human being. Because it takes time and will to sit there, find somebody, and just start picking on them. For what? And for the most part, these children, they don't deserve that. What did they do? Nothing. So now we have a child who is bullying someone. Something is missing. Something is not wired correctly. What is their household? Is anyone having conversations with them? Maybe they feel neglected. Because you just don't wake up being a bully. And then to walk past somebody or another child and you just feel you need to pick on them. For what? That's anger. They're lost. But then now you got the child that is being bullied. And sometimes they don't know how to talk to their parents about what they're experiencing daily. Why? I think we play a part in that. You know why? This whole snitches get stitches. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. So you want me to protect your criminal activity ass. Because snitches get stitches? Who the hell came up with that? Yeah, the only person that really wants that applied to them is the one committing the crime, the wrongdoing. It's like, protect me. But then kids hear that. And then they think, oh, wow, if I talk to somebody or tell what's been going on with me, that's snitching. Snitching. So you supposed to just continue to get beat up because this bully is threatening. If you tell, you're going to have stitches. Only stitch that's going to be given is the one in your ass. And that's why parents go, I'm telling you, some of these parents about it, boo-boo. We're going up to this school. What's up? Look, let me tell y'all. And I'm pretty sure people can relate. Y'all know that movie, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle? With that, physician, doing some weird stuff to his patients and whatnot. And then, he ended up taking himself out. And then his wife found out who reported him for doing, inappropriate activities in the office, child during exams. She was on a mission and then ended up working and applying for a babysitting job for the family who told and reported her husband, whom now is deceased. And then she had a miscarriage, right? That one. When she went up to that school, child, after the daughter said she been getting picked on, she said, "Did you tell your mom?" Like, yeah, but she don't really understand and really couldn't do anything, whatever, But it didn't protect the child. Child, she went up there to that school, had the child point out this little boy, and went there and snatched his arm and bent it, right? Now I'm not recommending that at all. No. We shouldn't be going up there snatching other people's kids. But I'm just saying that because that was the situation I had. Yeah. I had that moment and the cops was called. But I'm just saying our children should feel comfortable telling us what's bothering you. Because they know my parent don't play about me, boo-boo. She don't care who or how old you are. No. But really, I had a conversation, after the cops was called, cops were called and stuff. I had to go back, because then his parent, the, bully parent, because this little boy tried to, he was calling her out her name. Or he heard that from somewhere, calling her a B word. And this was in elementary. Child crazy. So after the cops called, we met with the parent and sat. I apologized for, I kind of just, held his hand a little bit and told him, don't disrespect my child. And that's a girl. You are a boy. Where's your parents? He wouldn't tell me where they live. But talking to the father, I don't think he had a sense of understanding what his son did that affected my daughter. So when it was discussed, he almost was kind of vouching, like it's okay. But that's the problem. What are we really teaching our kids? Let me tell you something. Even if children, right, they can have an effect that has been done to them by an adult. In those cases, there's so many reports and issues when children are violated by even family members. You don't think that's going to have an impact on their well-being and mental state? Yeah. But there should be at no point in time where your child feels as if holding this secret is more important and right than telling you what happened. No. I think we fail in that area as well. Teaching our kids about their body, what's wrong, what's right, that adults should not be inappropriate with you. And in the event where that ever happened or was even attempted, that's a problem. That's a problem. So we need to be careful also about who our children are around. Some people know adults that do funny stuff. Probably ain't had a past history of it. You won't be over here. And if you are, you're going to be very much supervised. But it shouldn't be a point where your child is afraid to be open and honest with their parent and loved ones. You got some parents that literally dismiss and disregard their children when the child do come up and start expressing what is wrong with them. And then there is also parents won't acknowledge wrongdoing. Not to be, putting my parent business out there. You hear me? I love my mom and everything. But talking to her, getting her to acknowledge her wrongdoing, me trying to express, you know, my feelings, that never goes well. My mom's the type literally that is so stubborn and always on a defense. And you have those type of individuals as well where if it's not something good or something they want to hear, it's disregarded. No, I ain't do that. No, girl, no, no, you. Mm-mm. Have open dialogue. I used to set meetings for real. I would text my children, family discussion, and then just say, everybody express, especially when me and my ex husband was going through things. I would literally have meetings with my children. How are you feeling? What's up with you? What's going on? What can I do? What have I done to you that affected you? And I take that. I take it. I don't dismiss that. If they saying, well, I feel like, um, you don't have patience or you didn't make me feel comforted or safe during this situation or whatever the case may be, right? I take that. I acknowledge it because guess what? They got it from somewhere. It may not be so obvious to us as adults how we affected or what may have come across, what I'm saying, differently to our children. It wouldn't have been okay for me to like, shit, you making stuff up. I didn't do that. You ain't got no reason to feel that way. It is so painful. I'm grown. I have only recently got to a point where I had to readjust any form of expression to my mom because I know the response that I'm going to get. And if I put that much, I would say, emotions or hope that she's going to take accountability, acknowledge my feelings, then guess what? I'm going to get triggered. But I had to sit back and assess, why is she like that? Because there is a lot of people like that. Just don't admit to nothing. She didn't have a mother. Maybe her feelings was disregarded. They can't do certain things. But that's what I mean by taking in consideration what you suffered or what caused wedges, you know what I'm saying? Or affected you in your mind with your own parents. Then don't do that to your children. Do the opposite. unfortunately, and people may have an issue with what I'm about to say, but it's truthful. Like I said, Black households, we fail some. Oh, mm-hmm. We fail to talk about, to acknowledge, to provide emotional support, to protect our loved ones or children's emotions. We so used to, being so aggressive. I hear so many parents disrespecting the hell out of their child. And I mean as if they was talking to someone off the streets. That it bothers me. Not because I ain't perfect, but I will never call any of my children bitches. Like you're stupid. You're an idiot. Never. Could you imagine the imprint that saying something like that is disgusting and degrading to your child? Now they have that in mind. They're not going to feel comfortable talking to you when you so disrespectful. So I do highly recommend having meetings with your children. Maybe I would do it, a few times, maybe a month or even once a month. Just checking in. And it does help. We all are flawed. But younger adolescents, they don't process that the same. They don't. And sometimes they are misdiagnosed as well. People miss the mark with their children as well. Just because they're acting out, don't mean that it is a chemical issue. Like I talked about, it's a difference. It can be situational, environmental, changes, school, something else, that is stressing them out. And until that is addressed and tackled, the problem is not going to go away. We can't sweep our children's feelings under the rug. We all have a limited mental capacity. And once that capacity, meaning your tolerance, hits high, one more thing, one more thing will set you off. So we need to pay attention to that as well. But okay. Like I said, and yes, the discipline when your children say if they just get in trouble and stuff, it may not even be due to a mental health issue, child. They just be showing their ass. The discipline needs to be in accordance. I would literally, when I discipline my children, they'll tell you. I ask them, why are you getting in trouble? With me. Hmm? What did you do? Do you understand why you're on punishment? Why I had to take your phone, whatever. Or why I had to whoop your ass. Yeah. Tell me. And then they would say, yep, okay, now you know why you're getting your ass whooped. Not beat. So, not that yep. Anyway, it all depends on the household as well. Okay, so I said listen to them. I do highly recommend determine determining discussion based on their age, what's appropriate, what they can comprehend and rationalize, right? Digest. But children, mental health, emotional states, like it doesn't show up the same way as adults. And that's why we miss the mark a lot of times. Because if you're not paying attention to the changes behavioral wise in your children, then yeah, that problem still is going to be a problem and it's going to grow. So pay attention to our children, emotional states and behaviorals. Okay. Okay. So, as I said, it's so heartbreaking hearing about another child taking their own life because of somebody else. It's heartbreaking. What can we do to change that, to lessen that outcome? If a child don't feel safe, mm-mm, that's a big problem. And then not only you don't feel safe, you can't even express yourself. You can't express yourself appropriately. So they're bottled up with all of that. And just like us, we get to a point where this is not going to get better. This ain't going to get better. Nobody's going to fix this. I'm a burden. This hurts too much mentally. And then being that young, you don't know what to do with all of that. We struggle. We struggle uh, with coping techniques and skills and going to therapy. It's such a taboo, especially in the Black households. We don't talk enough about our issues. Or it is a good idea to go to therapy. We need to stop dismissing our kids. To me, if my kids come to me, I'm going to believe them first. I'm going to believe you first. And then figure out what actually happened. Because I'm going to hold you accountable as well. They have to be held accountable for their actions. But if it's more so the effects of not feeling loved, supported, cared for, neglect, whatever the case may be, that can show up different. Okay. So here's some helpful. Let me see. I talked about the changes. Speak to that because pay attention to the household adjustment changes and so forth. Spending quality time. Let me see. Children. You know what I recognized recently? Like, there's a lot of children who has been diagnosed with autism. Seriously, it's been like an increased amount of cases of children being diagnosed with autism. That shows up different. And then depending on the spectrum. But also electronics. Bruh, that's why them brain cells dying off of theirs. They can't comprehend or rationalize certain things because their brain cells are fried on Fortnite, Roblox. Take them damn electronics or monitor that as well. because that can have an influence on how they respond to you or anybody else. And half of them damn games require you to be aggressive. We don't think about that either. Oh, just because you bust somebody head on this damn game, you think you gonna do me like that? Nope. Not today. I will unplug it in a heartbeat. I don't give a damn what stage or level you at. Okay? Your life gone. Anyway, sorry. But yes, so it all depends. You should know your children more than anybody, as I said. But like bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, that's scary. Those hidden symptoms. You can't see those. There's no box on the top of your child head that says urgent, feeling sad, depressed, lonely, neglected, unsafe, whatever. It's our job to keep an eye on our children and have those conversations. I always used to also tell my kids, put a name to what you're feeling. Tell me, what is it closely related to? Discomfort, you feeling depressed, sad, anxious. Like, I want you to put a name to it so then I can identify it and then offer support. My daughter, my youngest daughter, who now has my first grandbaby, um, I dealt with, I think it's more so like anxiety. Like she literally started to develop panic attacks. It literally just came about out of nowhere. And I would have discussions with her. Set her up so she can go to therapy. But one time I was at work, baby, she called and told me and admitted she was hurting herself. Oh, I wouldn't have thought that. Hurting herself. And she was, hell, probably like 18, 19. I, baby, we need to have a conversation face to face. Then I saw with my eyes because she hid the stuff she was doing. I couldn't believe it. But I'm going to meet that with compassion, love. Why? And I'm always in my kids' business, and yet I miss that. But she felt safe enough to tell me. Now, it could have been after a while, but she still told me. We had a conversation, cried, and I'm going to get her some help. But I think she said there was kind of just like an onset of feeling just overwhelmingly anxious and worried. And she was in a relationship with a boy that really, really suffered for severe mental health issues, that he was on medication. And then on top of that, he had an addiction. He had an addiction. He has gotten in so much trouble, has been, you know, in a psychiatric ward and jail because of these untreated, unoccupied, untackled, whatever feelings and emotions. And he was older, but you can see by his behavior that something wasn't right. When my daughter first introduced him to us, with me and she had told him, my mom has been through addiction and mental health, and that my mom will help you. You can talk to her. You can tell her anything. I love that. A few of my other, I say a few, well, I got three, so the other two would say the same thing. Talk to my mom. She'll help you. She's been through some things. So you have to meet that with compassion, patience, understanding, validation. Because clearly they didn't feel comfortable enough having those type of, you know, dialogues with their own family members. But they knew if they came to my house, they were safe enough to express themselves. And that's another thing. We as community members, I wish we could step up to that as well. That we could step up and have discussions, right? Be a support person for all our children, not just your child, your loved ones, but share responsibility. We need to look at it like we're obligated because they need that. And we need them to be okay so we can lessen the likelihood of them hurting themselves or somebody else being buried in prison. Because that's all that's going to come out from that. Neighborhood kids, some are. A lot of us are a product of our environment. But that doesn't mean that they cannot be corrected. Sometimes kids just want you to say, "Hey, how you doing? You okay?" They want to talk. They just want to feel safe when they do. But if they're in a household where feelings are off topic, they don't know how. But what goes on in this house stays in this house. Actually, it don't. Because what happened in that house did not stay in that house. He went to go rob a damn store. So yes, let's get rid of this whole snitches got stitches because we're putting fear in the minds of our youths early on. I'm not fit to protect somebody that decided for whatever reason to hurt somebody else. No. And they need talk. Okay? Now go back. Okay? The Bible said, what, spare the rod, spare the child? I'm gonna get this rod and bop you right up in your forehead. You hear me? Okay? But I just wanted to you know, speak not only just about adult mental health, but also talk about how it shows up in our children's lives. Now, I know This episode, a little bootleg. I'll see the closet check. But you got to start from somewhere because these discussions are important. And we need to always have awareness, not only for our own loved ones, but for others as well. And we need to just step up more. Talk to your children. Don't disregard their feelings, even if they're saying you may be the problem. I don't look at kids as they're saying this just cause. You so they just decided I'm gonna lie today and say you have been disrespectful when you've never been disrespectful. Maybe the way you did it came across to them as, but because it don't fit your definition of what it looks like or sounds like, you dismiss your child's honesty, their perspective. Also, every mental health um, condition doesn't require medication all the time either. A conversation can go a long way. Quality time can go a long way. After a certain amount of time, even though my kids are gone, we said nah. I'm texting everybody. All right, dinner and a movie today. Family day. And we would have a ball, laughing, sitting in the movies, watching. Oh, I love it. But I would take the initiative to do that as a family. Um, what else have I tackled? This is not everything. It's just something I felt that was important. And to offer some suggestions, the ones that I have felt that was most effective with my own kids. They're grown now, but they still feel comfortable. Now, I don't know if they tell me everything, but they still feel safe if they wanted to. That I would take their feelings and protect it, not let it spill and throw it in the garbage. Don't do that. Have the conversations today. Today. Recognize what changed. If your household shift recently or you had an argument and the kids was around and some tragic happened at school or in the neighborhood, bring that up to them. Ask them, how does it affect you? Protect that. Okay? What else? I think that's for the most part. If I think of anything else, I will make a part 3. But I thank you for listening, taking any, suggestions. I would take some too, honey. You could tell me and be open to me about anything other than my background. It's Mac. But the message is more important than my background. You feel it? So, good luck, good love. Stay connected. And I appreciate everybody. Peace out, Honesty with Comedy. I'm minding your business all day, every day. Kid edition. Thank you. Bye.